Welcome, everyone. I'm Becca Cantor, Jewish Book Council's editorial director, and I'm so pleased to have you join us today for the launch of the 4th issue of our literary journal, Paper Brigade. Paper Brigade celebrates the breadth and diversity of Jewish books and voices, both in the US and abroad. We also highlight every genre from fiction to nonfiction, poetry to visual arts, and you'll get a taste of each one of them this evening. Our 4th issue encompasses 2 years and the work of over 50 writers and artists. Before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our contributors. Thank you for your dedication and for your beautiful words and artwork. It's an honor to be featuring you. I wish we could hear from each one of our contributors this evening. Unfortunately, the timing is just too tight, but all of the contributors who could be here today will be joining us on screen at the end of the program for a toast. At any point, please feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to congratulate the contributors. In the chat, we'll be sharing the bios of the writers and artists who are speaking. We've also posted a link to purchase Paper Brigade, so if you haven't bought it yet, you can very easily do so now. If you'd like closed captioning, just click on the icon at the bottom of the screen and you can read a whole script there. Lastly, I'd like to thank my amazing colleagues at JBC. Everything here is truly a team effort, and Paper Brigade wouldn't be what it is without them. In particular, I'd like to thank our executive director, Naomi Firestone Teeter, our designer, Catherine Messenger, our fiction editor, Josh Rolnick, and our fiction readers, Evie Sapphire Bernstein, Simona Zaretsky, Michelle Zerov, Maren Waxman, Daniela Wexler, and Amy Spungen. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Carol Kaufman, our executive editor. Carol and I have edited Paper Brigade since it was founded in 2016. Carol often works behind the scenes, but she is a guiding force, and her wisdom, insightfulness, and razor-sharp editing are evident on every single page of the journal. Carol, it's truly an inspiration to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words, Becca. I'm Carol Kaufman. As Becca said, we've worked closely together on Paper Brigade for 4 years. So first of all, I'd like to thank her and acknowledge her enormous role in conceptualizing and shaping the journal in this, her inaugural year as editorial director. She has guided, even edged Paper Brigade forward in exciting new directions, as you'll see when you read it. I also want to express our enormous gratitude to Naomi Firestone Teeter. As JBC's executive director, she is fully on everyone's team on every project. In fact, the whole JBC team works on every project. We are collaborative and invested in everything Jewish Book Council does, and of course that includes Paper Brigade. Now I want to pass the mic to Josh Rolnick, Paper Brigade's new fiction editor. Thanks to Josh, we are proudly publishing original fiction for the first time.
Thank you, Carol. And it's such an honor to talk about these two authors we have with us today. And it was really, truly wonderful to read all of the stories, but these two stories, and you're going to hear from both of our authors today, really stood out to our team. So I'd like to introduce the authors. First, we have Basha Winograd. Basha is a Queens-based teacher, filmmaker, and writer. She holds an MFA in creative writing from Hunter College and in film directing from Columbia University. In 2019, Basha was the Crossfield Fellow at the Cuddy Hunk Writers Residency, as well as a 2019 Queens Arts Council New Works grantee. She was awarded a Vermont Studio Center Merit Grant and a Malay Colony residency in 2020. In years past, Basia has been a Fulbright Teaching Fellow, a Hertog Fellow, and a New York State Women in Film and Television Fellow. And since 2016, Basia has taught Introduction to Creative Writing and Fiction 1 to undergraduates at Hunter College. This story is drawn from her novel, which is set between 1945 and 1968 in Poland, and it explores the story of one man and his family from the time he returns to Poland after the war until his family is forced to leave in 1968 after a series of government-sponsored anti-Semitic purges. The Realist, which she will read from, is her first published story in a nationally distributed journal. And Abigail Weaver, our other honored author today, is an emerging playwright, translator, and short story writer. Abigail graduated from Smith College in 2019 with a BA in Theater and Jewish Studies, and she's currently the Rona Moscow Fellow at the Yiddish Book Center in Amherst, Massachusetts. Her translations have appeared in Geveb and on the Yiddish Book Center's website. Her first play, Grains of Wheat, won Smith College's Dennis Johnson Playwriting Award and was a finalist for Theater J's Patty Abramson Prize. She makes work with Theater Between Addresses, a theater collective in Western Mass, which produced radio adaptations of 3 of her short plays in the autumn of 2020. Her work explores themes of surveillance, magic, and surviving the end of the world, and we could all use a few tips on that right now. We are really thrilled and honored to have published The Little Bottles, which is her debut short story. I will now, I'd like to invite Abigail to read from her story.
Hi, thank you all for coming. This is something that happens near the beginning of this story. It's a fantasy story about a really special love between these 2 women, and I'm on page 202 if people want to read along. Just before the Sabbath, Hinda stole an empty medicine bottle from her grandmother's bedside, uncorked it, and filled it with water. She stood it up under her bed and lay on the mattress, stone still, listening to every creak and groan of the house, afraid to fall asleep and miss the arrival of a visiting soul. But then what if the soul saw her waiting and didn't come? What if she hadn't put out enough water? What if none of it was true after all? She drifted off after midnight, but woke before dawn, stirred by a weak glimmer emanating from under the bed. Clutching the cork in her fist, she peered down over the edge of the bed and saw something soft and beautiful drifting in the water, like the afterimage of a candle flame. She seized the bottle and slammed in the cork, sloshing the water inside. Frightened by her own boldness, she carefully put the bottle back down and retreated to the middle of her bed. She waited there, sleepless, until her mother called her for breakfast, and she went about her Sabbath day too afraid to look at the soul. The light was long in the afternoon when she built up the courage to kneel down and peek under the bed again. The soul seemed to be about 2 inches long, although where it really ended and began wasn't clear. It moved like fire, flickering with warm light. It darted around, making ripples in the water, and when it bumped or brushed against the walls of its glass prison, it made a melodic clinking sound, like a ring dropped into an empty wine glass. She looked more closely, nearly pressing her nose to the bottle, and in the soul's wavering form, she discerned human features, warped and quickly shifting. There was a wizened mouth, and there 2 clouded eyes. "Hello," she whispered. "Can you speak?" She held the bottle up to her ear and listened.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Basha Winograd.
Hi, everyone, and thank you to Josh for that lovely intro, and thanks to everyone at the Paper Brigade. I've really had such a wonderful experience so far working with you all. I'm going to read from the very top of this story, which is also very close to the beginning of the novel that the story comes from. And I'm on page 77 if anyone wants to read along. Felix Hassmann stepped off the train at Łódź Fabryczna and did not look around. Because what for? He could have found his way back to his childhood home if he were blind. Thumbs hooked under rifle strap, he took Targowa Street up to Piłsudskiego and hung a right on Kilińskiego. If he chanced on a familiar storefront, he calmly refocused his gaze. A different man might have searched the faces passing him, but Felix considered himself a realist. He already knew he would recognize no one he wanted to see. The entrance gates to his building's courtyard stood open. He crossed the cobblestones and stepped inside the vestibule. It smelled, as always, of damp stone and boiled carrots. The stained glass windows had been knocked out in places, and as Felix took the stairs to the 4th floor, unfamiliar slashes of white light fell onto the winding banister, exposing a layer of dust. As he'd expected, the mezuzah on his family's doorframe was gone, as was the brass plate inscribed with their name. A modern lock had been installed above the old keyhole. But the carved Art Deco numbers on the door had been left alone. Felix ran his fingertips over the 4 and the 2. A sculptor friend had brought over the chunk of Cuban mahogany one afternoon when Felix was just a boy. Tata had gone to work on it immediately, dancing his knife through the sweet-smelling wood right in the middle of the salon. "Sweetheart, have you lost your mind? I just had that rug cleaned yesterday." Mama's voice, its teasing lilt, sounded so real. He shook off the memory and knocked. Firmly, but, he hoped, not arrogantly. He'd heard the stories, people killed for the crime of showing up unmurdered at the doorsteps of their family homes. But if being a soldier these last 6 years had earned Felix anything, it was the right to take an impulsive risk and call it bravery. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Basha. And now joining us from Berlin, the illustrator of our 2 stories, Laura Junger.
Hi everybody, so hi from Europe. I'm living in Berlin currently, and it was also a pleasure to illustrate these 2 short stories. I would have loved to take you in a real time studio tour, but I'm approaching bedtime here, and so I did a little video that you can see. I hope you will enjoy. Somebody is supposed to put it on, right? Here's the little tour of my studio. I share it with 4 friends, also illustrators, animators and musicians. Anywhere I've worked, I have the messiest desk. When I arrive in the morning, I usually have to make some space first thing. I will share my work process for a job I'm doing at the moment for the magazine of the Philharmonie in Hamburg. It's for an article about the 2 main theaters in Russia. I start sketching with pencil. Once the sketches are validated by the client, I draw the final with black lines and watercolor on 2 different papers. This way, I can still do some corrections. At last, I assemble everything in Photoshop. In between commercial jobs, I always try to find time to paint. Usually I use the travels I did recently. So this one was from the Japan trip last autumn. Here are some of the paintings I did in the last trip to New York. And a few more places. It's really great to share the studios with friends. There is always someone when you need a break.
Thank you so much, Laura. Joining us from Tel Aviv, Ayelet Sabari and Yonit Naaman.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed everything so far. Loved watching your studio, Laura. I'm going to introduce Yonit. I'm so proud and honored to introduce her. First of all, full disclosure, we are second cousins. Our grandmothers, Salha and Saida, were twins, though we only got to know each other as adults, really. But reading her work, even before I knew her as a young Yemeni Israeli woman at the time, I really felt seen. Yonit Naaman presents a new voice in Israel literary scene. It's subversive, it's humorous, it's fiercely feminist, and it's unafraid of controversy. Her work depicts a Mizrahi woman's experience in an Ashkenazi and male-dominated society and tackle hard topics such as racism, motherhood and infertility, weight and body image, and she does that elegantly and often through imagery. A poet riding her bike through the streets of Tel Aviv littered with business cards for escort services, a maid catching a reflection in a toilet bowl, and through precise language that radiates ingenuity and confidence. It's such a joy to get to share her work in English with all of you. Hello, Yonit.
Hi, Ayelet and everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. So I'll read a poem in Hebrew. העולם נעצר על סף המילה. הנה אבא, אמר יואלי בדרך לגן החדש. על המדרכה שבקצה אצבעו המורה ראיתי איש צעיר צועד לבוש מדים של צבא ההגנה. זה לא אבא, אמרתי לבני, ועצרתי באמצע משפט. המילים זה חייל נעמדו בגרוני דום מתוח. שלא ידע עדיין לאן הולכים חיילים, מה עושים צבאות, איך עומדים דום. Thank you.
Thank you. The world stops at the edge of the word. It's Daddy, said Yoeli on the way to his new kindergarten. On the sidewalk at the end of his pointing finger, I saw a young man walking, dressed in the uniform of the Army of Defense. That's not Daddy, I said to my son, and stopped mid-sentence. The words, it's a soldier, snapped to attention in my throat. So that he wouldn't know yet where soldiers go, what armies do, how to stand at attention. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much to both of you. David Casson.
Hi guys, thanks for stopping by my studio. It's a huge honor to be a part of this, especially with all these artists and writers, and you guys are so talented. I just wanted to share some of my work with you guys. I've been for the last 6 years painting Holocaust survivors all around the world, capturing their testimony within paint. This is my studio here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And here's a painting that's still in progress of Dario Gabay. And just thought I'd introduce you to some of the people I've painted, and they've become friends and family almost pretty much. This is Elsa Ross, who I painted. These are reproductions from the catalog from my exhibition. So this is Jonathan Adler. This is Rosalind and Bella. So they were in Forest Hills, Queens. This is Joshua Kaufman, who lives in LA. This is Rhea Kavinsky, who lives here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And these are all oil on panel paintings. They're all life size. This is Hannah Davidson Pankowski, who I met in San Antonio. And here's what a basic study is. I'll do a drawing first, and then I'll transfer the drawing over to a panel, and I'll start painting. Here's the first painting in my series that I did of Sam Godofsky, who lives in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And I'll show you just a really quick painting in progress of him. So basically just to give you guys an idea of the intricacy that goes into an oil painting. So here I'm kind of just shaping out the eye, and I've transferred over the drawing from a charcoal sketch. And I come in and I just start doing little tiny hatch strokes, almost like an Andrew Wyeth style of painting, where it's almost like egg tempera, but with oil paint. Really trying to capture the life and the color and the vibrancy and the luminosity of the person who's sitting for me. And also to tell their story and kind of trap their story and capture their story in an amber that's going to last forever. You know, because I feel like painting, though it's a very archaic medium, is very lasting and has a permanence to it. So just working on the eye just a little bit, on the outer canthus of the eye. Slowly, when I'm painting, I'm always really thinking about the contours of how one shape is moving into another and how one color is playing against another color. Warms versus cools, the greens versus the pinks of the skin. Really trying to capture what's underneath the skin, as well as what we see physically, the physiognomy of the body and of the face. And all these subtleties really are important to me to really capture who this person is and document who they are. Awesome. So thanks again for visiting my studio out here in Albuquerque. I really appreciate and again, honored to be a part of this.
Thank you so much, David. Danny Shapiro and T. Kira Madden are next.
Kira, you there?
I'm here. Hi, Danny.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. It's really nice to be with you all and to see this amazing work. But it's great to be in conversation with you because I feel like our work is in conversation with each other all the time in a way. And so, especially during this time of so much isolation,
Absolutely.
I thought I really wanted to ask you, one of the things I was thinking about rereading our conversation in Paper Brigade is that we both finished these books that were about such life-altering discoveries and were also such life-altering books as well, I think, for each of us. And then not that long thereafter went into this time that we've all been living through when so many artists, I think, and writers find it complicated to create. So I'll ask you the Meghan Markle question. Are you okay? How are you doing?
Thanks for asking. I'm also so honored to be here with you and to be here celebrating this magazine, which I just want to say, beyond the beautiful content that's been shared, it's the most beautiful magazine I've ever seen. Layout, art, color, it's just such a beautiful object. So thanks for your question. I'm okay, relatively speaking, I'm okay. I've lost somebody I know to this in the past few months, and now my brother-in-law is struggling, but I have been able to write here and there. I think the writing looks a little bit different, and I'm interested to talk to you about that, what it looks like for you. I can't seem to focus on any long-term big project at the moment, but it's more this action of dipping into moments and really focusing on, I guess, teleportation in a way to other moments and other places in the world. Doing a lot of object studies and place studies of places in my dreams, fictional places, significant car rides in trees, and just trying to remember the sensory details of the world before now. How about you, Danny?
That's beautiful. I've been trying to find ways to feed my creative life, within this time. And, I made a little list of what does that this afternoon. And one is certainly reading. I find that if every day, Jane Kenyon has this beautiful idea in her instructions to writers, and and it's keep good sentences in your ears. And so I find myself, if I begin the day reading, my attention span is shot. I don't know about you, but I'm reading poems, I'm reading short stories, more than I'm reading sort of great sweeping epic novels. Um, and also, I started a podcast during the very beginning of the pandemic where every day I would interview somebody about what their lives were like a window into, essentially this question that I'm asking you right now, of like, how are you doing? What's it like? Because I think we all are in such a state of what is really a very unnatural isolation, that one of the things that really connects us is knowing what we're all doing and how we're all doing.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I found that the energy source behind the writing has really shifted for me. Um, you're familiar with my work, and if anyone who knows that I often write in a place of fear and mystery and horror in a way. And I found something that surprised me these past few months is I'm really writing from a place of hope. I think that's the only thing that's opening for me right now, is thinking of other futures, other places, other realities, and kind of perhapsing my way into a more hopeful place on the page than I think I've been in the past. And
Mm.
really surprising and a little bit nice, I think.
Yeah,
Looking to
I love that. One of the things at the beginning of COVID, I was speaking with a friend of mine, the writer Ruth Ozeki, about this exercise that um, that I have taught my students for years, which is based on Joe Brainerd's book, I Remember. With beginning every sentence, I remember. And Ruth said that she had amended it for her students who actually were at Smith College, uh, to be remembering, to turn it into almost like a fictive exercise rather than a memory exercise, and imagine remembering this time from further down the road, which I thought was a really beautiful idea and way of thinking about this time, because it also means that it's being thought of from being on the other side of it.
I love that. I love Ruth Ozeki.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Danny. I think that's.
I think our 5 minutes just flew by. So
It really did. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
We now have a studio visit from Paper Brigade's designer, Catherine Messenger.
Hi, everyone. It is so nice to be with you. I am in the far away state of Maine in Blue Hill. I used to live in New York, and that's when I met the very good people of Paper Brigade. And since then, I've had children, and I've moved to Maine, and I've entirely freelancing. And one of my favorite parts of the year is to work with the JBC fellows on creating this behemoth. Look at this beautiful, chunky, luscious thing. It was so much fun to make, and I thought I would start by doing something a little unconventional. So let's look at the back. This is one of my favorite parts to do every year. I decided to it'd be really cool to highlight some of our favorite sentences that were in the issue on the back, and I would paint every year going forward a crier that's declaring these sentences to you, the reader. And I wanted to show you some of the illustrations that I made, such as the one on the back, that go into Paper Brigade. So I not only designed the logo and what all the pages look like and build it, blah blah, but I also did several of the illustrations, which is really fun to do. I love to do that. So so when I do art, I always start with this lovely paper, nice big pink thing, and it's French, all cotton. And so here is that here's an old crier. Actually, I pulled the wrong one. Here's an old one. So here she is, and she's on a Vespa that year. And this is nothing to do with Paper Brigade. And then this is one of our other favorite features, to do the map. So every year we've had a literary map that I've done. And as you can see, there's no text here because I add that later in InDesign. So I leave all these columns open and I pour in the text later. And yeah, so that's really fun. And all these little fellows at the edge just show you my progress in creating the right hue for each part of the map. And I went through my archives and I found another one that I did. I think this was the previous year, Italy. Sorry, everything's backwards. Maybe there's a way to fix that on my computer. I don't know it, sorry. And then this was one of my favorite illustrations to do this year, which was about shuttle, I can't say that word, I'm sorry, memory and literature. And it was so much fun to make this because I read through the piece and I noticed, wow, this writer has so many profound images in here. And I decided to just focus on those. And I started drawing them in sort of this dreamlike sequence. And as I was doing it, I thought, wow, I feel like I'm sort of channeling some Chagall vibe. And so I kind of went with it. And I ended up drawing something that's really unlike what I normally do, but I was really happy with it, and I liked that it included lots of little books for Paper Brigade, which is important, and even a fellow sleeping inside a book. And over here we have one of the two criers on the back too. So I use up weird parts of the page, and I always use the same exact size piece of paper. I've just gotten used to it. And so I apologize that I can't really show you a fascinating studio because I'm actually in the middle of moving. And the last piece I have not moved is a really, really, really large map. Oh, it's actually time for me to go, so I'm going to show you really fast. It's about as big as I am. So this is really fun. And that's it. It is so nice to see all of you. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine. That was wonderful. I want to say thank you again to all of our contributors and all of you in the audience who've joined us today. Our mission at Jewish Book Council is to educate and enrich the community through Jewish literature. I'd like to encourage you to consider becoming a member to support JBC's initiatives and again to purchase Paper Brigade. It makes a wonderful gift, and if you buy today, it will arrive just in time for Hanukkah. I also hope you'll join us for our next event on December 17th with Books Are Magic featuring Nicole Krauss. You can find a link to register in the chat and also on our website. And now it's my pleasure to reintroduce Carol Kaufman, who will lead us in a closing toast.
I want to say congratulations to all the contributors of Paper Brigade for your superb work. L'chaim. Would everybody who has a glass please raise it?
Yeah.